Hey YouTube, what's up? So I wanted to talk about colorism. Yeah, of course, right? What a surprise. But I want to talk about colorism in regards to how groups of people handle colorism and sort of compare and contrast. All right. And I kind of want to compare and contrast how light skinned mixed and biracial men tend to deal with colorism versus brown skinned and dark skinned women. And before I get into this, I just kind of want to give a bit of a disclaimer and also just um, you know check my privilege, so to speak, right? And also just the privilege that other folks have too. All right, but what I want to say is, light-skinned men and dark-skinned women, it's like the situations are different. Well, it's like they both experience colorism, as does all groups of people, of course, in the black community, of course. Um, but I'll say that, light skinned, biracial, and mixed men tend to have, you know, light skin privilege and male privilege on their side. Um, while, I do want to recognize that, the brown skin, dark skin sisters don't really have that situation really working for them. Um, um, So I just want to put that out there that, while I am comparing and contrasting, I do recognize that the situations aren't exactly equivalent, right? Where it's completely equal here and completely equal here, all right? But let me get into this, okay? So oftentimes I see dark-skinned women probably being dark skinned, brown skinned women probably being the most vocal about colorism, as far as like voicing their complaints about colorism, and rightfully so, right? I'm not trying to shame, brown skinned and dark skinned women for speaking up. Um, it seems like a light skinned mixed biracial men probably aren't as quick to speak up about colorism. And I think that's probably because of the shaming that goes along. Whereas, like, you're already getting folks coming at you just because you're light skinned, trying to take away your masculinity, trying to feminize you for some reason. We all know what that's about. So it's like all these sort of like stereotypes, and it's like you don't want to really fall into that stereotype of being, seen as like a weak and a complainer and, you know, bitch made and all that other stuff, right? So I think the women are more likely to voice their concerns than the men, right? And I think it just goes for black men in general and black women in general, honestly. Because quiet as it's kept, I think, there's some dark skinned, brown skinned brothers who have colorism complaints, just as there's some light skinned, mixed biracial females who have colorism complaints. But oddly enough, you don't really hear about anybody's colorism complaints until, the brown skinned, dark skinned sisters pop off, right? Once they pop off, then everybody want to pop off for some reason, right? And then it's like, well, if you had these complaints, why didn't you voice them before now? Why you want to pop off and come through when I pop off and come through, right? That's a legitimate question. um, Also, well, next I'll say, um, sometimes I feel like brown skin and dark skin women tend to sort of they complain about colorism, but at the same time would also low key support some of the colorism that affects them. Like, say, um, uplifting brown skin, dark skin men while not receiving that upliftment in return, right? And I believe that's part of the colorism complaints that brown skin and dark skin women tend to have, right? While on the other hand, light skinned, mixed, and biracial men tend to not do that, right? They tend to not be just uplifting the collective of light-skinned women like they're the best thing ever. They're just treating them like any other woman for the most part, right? Since they're not getting anything, they're not giving anything. While on the other hand, it seems like the brown-skinned sisters and dark-skinned sisters are giving, but they're not receiving anything. So then it's like, well, maybe you should stop giving. But perhaps I'm missing something in the situation. Perhaps I'm missing a piece of the puzzle. But, something to think about. Um, Another thing, oftentimes I feel like sometimes brown skin and dark skinned women just wait, hold out, are on standby for brown skinned, dark skinned men, to pick them sometimes. While I feel like the light skinned mixed biracial dudes, they aren't they aren't waiting on standby for light skinned biracial and mixed women to get their act together. They ain't packing a lunch and waiting for that shit to happen. All right. They're not holding their breath for that. Instead, I think they're just moving on to women who appreciate them. Women of different shades and women of even different races, right? Just kind of like moving on to the folks who are interested, right? Versus, I think sometimes brown skinned, dark skinned women tend to want to hang on for some reason, right? And I know some gonna come through and be like, it's my preference, right? Only a black, dark skinned man for me, right? It's those chicks, right? But I don't really see that being returned in your favor from the brown skinned, dark skinned brothers, you know. You know. And to be fair, there is shaming that goes along when it comes to brown skinned, dark skinned women who do date interracially, but also just even date outside of their skin tone. There's some shaming that goes along with that for some reason. I don't know why that is.